Guys, so today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the 5 best NFL offseason investments. As you guys know, during the NFL offseason, there tends to be a big surge in price, of players leading into the season. There becomes a lot of hype for, new quarterbacks who potentially join new teams, or just in general, players who are predicted to have a very strong year. So before we get into that, I did want to say real quick, we just opened up our membership program again for new folks to join. We're going to be allowing 15 new members this week. We have been keeping it private for the last 2 weeks, or actually over a month. So we haven't actually opened up the program since about beginning of January, I want to say. So we're opening it back up. If you guys would like to join, the link is down below. The next 15 members are allowed to join in. Next 15 new members. We pretty much give picks of, our investments, and a lot of them have been very, very successful recently. I believe my overall portfolio on alt is up around 101%. 101%. So we're doing a lot of big things, just in terms of investing and finding the right cards, finding the right trends, and picking up on them before they actually happen. So if you guys would like to join that, the link will be down below to sportscardsinvest.com. But without further ado, we're going to hop right into the video. So the first player we have on this list is kind of the obvious one of the offseason, in my personal opinion. Jordan Love was a breakout star from last year. A lot of that hype leading into next year is going to come from him absolutely demolishing the Cowboys in the playoffs, and then him almost taking down the Niners in the playoffs. I just think the Packers got hot at the right time, and there's a lot of hype leading into next year around what they can do. Of course, the Packers have had Brett Favre for years and years. Then they went into the Aaron Rodgers era, and there's a lot of speculation that this could be the next era, which is the Jordan Love era in Green Bay. Now, Green Bay has a very, very strong fan base. I've personally been selling a lot of Jordan Love cards, to guys in Wisconsin, but I'm constantly buying new cards because his market is just extremely hot. And where I see personally the most opportunity is with cards that haven't quite risen as much as they should have. So one example would be his blue optic auto. So I bought a PSA 9 of this recently for just $400. Now, as you guys can see right here, his market overall surged a lot from January. So from January to about March, his market's up a lot. In fact, from December to March, his market is up a lot. However, there are some cards that are just lagging. So as you guys can see right here, over the last 90 days, his market is up over 50%. His blue optic auto PSA 9, I bought for pretty much the price of what it was going for in December before the whole surge. And if you look at guys like Joe Burrow, his blue optic auto, the same card is well into the thousands, probably 2,000 to 3,000 for the same card. And I was able to buy that for $400. Now, I think throughout the offseason, as he continues to get repriced, he's kind of in this price discoveration zone, I like to call it, where you don't know exactly what his price should be, but people are going to buy up his cards based on where they think they should be priced at. And throughout the end of the until the end of the offseason, we're likely going to see his prices really correct and get to where they should be. So his PSA 10 already jumped 50%, but his PSA 9 is lagging behind and is still around the price of it was in December. So you can see a lot of upside to be had in certain cards that haven't quite gone up. So there's a lot of opportunity here. If Burrows is 2,000 to 3,000, you can think, maybe Love should be 1,800 maybe, at least. So you can kind of use other players to kind of get a better gauge for where you think, your player should be priced at towards the end of the offseason. So for Love, I look at guys like Hurts, Tua, Herbert, and Burrow, and kind of feel that, there's a good chance he's going to be priced higher than Tua and Hurts at this point, just because there's more hype leading into next season around him, and his team, had a very strong playoff performance. Of course, he's not going to be priced, at Herbert and Burrow yet, but he could be, 30-40% of it leading into next season. I could definitely see. So a lot of cards that have been lagging behind, I can see good opportunities with, and so those are cards that I'm targeting more for Jordan Love. Now, next up on this list, I'm going to be going with Lamar Jackson. Can't go wrong with the MVP. And his cards right now are at a point where I just feel, he has a lot of room to grow because of how low they are. If you look right now at Lamar Jackson's market, he hasn't really risen since the start of the year, and there was a lot of uncertainty going into last season. So I just think overall there's a lot of room for upside in Lamar Jackson's market coming off of his second MVP. As I'm recording this, they literally just picked up Derrick Henry, who could add a big dimension to the Baltimore Ravens offense with enhancing the running game. So some of his cards are even down since the start, since last offseason, after a whole MVP year. So you can see, his Purple Stars PSA 9, this card was a $1,200 card last June when there was a lot of uncertainty around his market. After an MVP season, they're all the way down to $715. Leading into next season with the hype around, potentially, the whole new Ravens offense looking different with Derrick Henry and coming off of an MVP year. The Ravens hopefully looking stronger than ever. You can likely see this card being back to $1,200 to $1,400 in my personal opinion. I just see a lot of upside right here in Lamar Jackson's market. I think his prices are very low compared to a lot of stars in the league that I would say he is position higher than, in terms of just overall quarterback and his team being a competitive team. So I just think overall his cards are in a good spot. Very good buying opportunity in my opinion. But without further ado, we're going to hop right into a little bit of a riskier pick. I wouldn't say a riskier pick, but I would say a pick that may not have quite as much upside, but I do see there being some level of hype on Russell Wilson's market, with him now being a Steeler, him having, I would say, better weapons than he had in Denver, and he did have a good year in Denver overall last year. I would say he wasn't bad, his team was pretty bad, but, he personally played pretty well. And I think overall, just the hype of him being on a new team, with some weapons around him, I think could lead his market to, I would say recover a little bit. I would say there's not much risk here because he's already a Super Bowl quarterback and his cards are already dirt cheap. His PSA 10 Topps Chrome Auto Pop 79 is only a $400 card. This card obviously went all the way down to around $300. But it's kind of bouncing around, and I think this is a card that could have some hype. I mean, you see where this card was, just a couple of years ago. Of course, his market overall has gone down quite a lot, but this card is a card that has upside. I mean, it was a $1,700 card, in Jan of 2022. I don't see it going back there, to be honest, but I could see this card bouncing back up to close to the $1,000 range. Personally, just leading off of the hype, the Steelers have a very big fan base, and his cards are just so cheap. So I think overall, with the new fan base buying into his cards, and with people speculating over, him potentially having a good year next year with the Steelers, I just think his cards are pretty low priced and have upside because of how low they are. I mean, you can see BGS 95s going for as low as $150. Now, that $150 card, if you scroll back just a little bit, was a $1,500 card. So there's a lot of upside here if he's able to generate some hype. So I just think it's a low risk, high reward opportunity. I would say there's a small chance that it doesn't really pick up, but there's a chance that his market really picks up and sees, a potential 2-3x multiple, in my personal opinion, based on how low his prices currently are. Now, next up on the list, we're going to go with Justin Fields. His market is in a real uncertain time. As I'm recording this video, of course, the Falcons have picked up Kirk Cousins. You've got the Steelers picking up Russell Wilson. So a lot of the potential places that Fields could be traded to are kind of now out the waters. So there's a little bit of uncertainty around his market. But I think overall my personal gut feeling is that he's going to be a starting quarterback somewhere. Whether it's the Bears and they end up drafting Harrison Jr., I think that would be absolutely amazing for his market. If he had a real weapon and a lot of hype with Harrison on the team, or if he just ends up getting traded and becoming a starter for another team like the Patriots, I see a lot of hype there. So I think no matter what ends up happening, his cards are going to be higher than they are right now. His cards are currently really low after last season. His cards have really taken a dump, and I think overall they're bound to bounce back at some point, whether he stays with the Bears and they end up drafting Harrison, or whether he ends up being a starter on another team like New England. I think nonetheless his cards are going to be a lot higher than they are. If he gets traded, there's going to be a whole new fan base buying into his cards. So I just think his cards are at a low risk, high reward investment opportunity heading into next year, just due to hype alone and speculation. So I do think Fields is a good buy. Now next up, we're going to go with an ultra risky investment because there is a lot of uncertainty around Deshaun Watson's market. But Deshaun Watson's cards right now are at a point where I see an insane amount of upside if he is still named the starter in Cleveland, or if he is ending up in another good position. Of course, the Cleveland Browns have a very, very good team. Deshaun, of course, has not been who he is. He's, of course, been injured. He's just not had a great year. And, I think potentially he will likely be the starter. I think based on how much they paid him, they're going to give him one last chance this coming year. And I just think his cards, you can look at a PSA 10 prism, they call it. This is a $120 to $130 card. If we look at where it was literally, just some time ago, you can see the upside that could be had if he's able to be named a starter again. I just think his cards are not going to go much lower than $100, even if he's a backup. But I think if he's named a starter, his cards are really going to see a big increase. If we look at, for example, a National Treasures card of his, which is a very high upside card, we could go ahead and just take a look at how much they've dipped. I know I've been a buyer for a couple of his cards. I'm not willing to put too much into his market just because of how low, I would just say because of the risk that I could potentially not really see a great upside in my investment, but I don't see his cards going much lower. I mean, you can see a PSA 10 National Treasures rookie card of his is a $1,200 card. This card literally not long ago was a $36,000 card. So from $36,000 to $1,200, so pretty much a 97% decrease. I could potentially see this card, if he's named a starter, going back to $3,000-$4,000. To be honest, before last season, his cards were $8,700 card. So this was an $8,700 card. I could see it obviously not going that high, but I could see it bouncing back to the $3,000-$4,000 range if he has more certainty around his market, whether it's one way or the other, whether he's a backup or he's a starter. I just think overall his cards are in a spot where, there's upside. People forget that literally 3-4 years ago, this guy was looked at as a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And his National Treasures were $20,000, and now they're down to $1,000. So I just think overall, it's a kind of low risk. I don't see his cards going down much more below 1,000 for a National Treasures Pop 20 PSA 10 true rookie card. Maybe it ends up being an $800 card, maybe a $900 card, but maybe a $3,000 to $4,000 card. So I just think it's a good investment in terms of risk to reward ratio. I'm not suggesting you guys put more than you can afford to lose in his market, but if you have some extra money that you're willing to take more of a risk on, I'm just proposing that it could be a high reward investment if it pans out. So just based on how low his prices are, dipped over 95% over the course of a year and a half. So I just think it's an investment to at least take a look at, and based on your risk tolerance, make your own decision. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, the membership program, we are opening up to 15 new members, so click the link down below if you would like to join. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.